Hey guys, welcome to Juicy Tea, where I read out the best stories on Reddit, so you don't have to. The funny, shocking, and satisfyingly juicy. Today's video is Am I the Asshole Wednesday, where you get to judge. Who's right and who's wrong? Our first post comes from Quarterfuke. Am I the asshole for refusing to weigh myself in front of my partner? Backstory. Me and my fiancé have broken up over this, and I need some impartial opinions if I'm the asshole. I'm very insecure about my weight, and I put on over 10 kilos through COVID, work stress and grief. In July, I received an ultimatum from my fiancé that if I didn't lose 4 kilos by my birthday, yesterday, the wedding at the end of the year is off. He also demanded to know what my starting weight was. I was so upset by this that I couldn't even engage with him for a week. I even saw a psychologist to help me process it. I eventually cracked, and I told him my weight, 76 kilos. We don't live together, and I worked really hard and lost 5 kilos in about 5 weeks. Yesterday was my birthday, the weigh-in day. He came over to visit. It was the first thing in the morning, and I wanted to get this over with. I was still upset by the whole experience. I stood on the scale in my pajamas, with my weight coming in at just over 70 kilos, which he looks at and verbalizes. He then weighs himself, and then he asks me to come back and re-weigh myself in front of him without any clothes on. I refuse. My reasoning was that I already felt humiliated, and I was only mentally prepared to do it once, which in my mind I did. He thinks I'm an asshole because I refused to do something that was important to him. I think he's an asshole for making me go through this experience. I texted a single trusted friend who gave me some reassuring words, essentially that I'm not crazy and that this isn't my fault, which I shared with him, not saying who the friend was. He thinks that it's not impartial and that I'm bad-mouthing him. We broke up over my refusal to re-weigh myself in front of him without clothes on. I know people who are impartial. The internet. Am I being unreasonable in not doing something that was so important to him? Am I the asshole for refusing to weigh myself in front of my partner? This has got to be the worst birthday present anyone has ever gotten. Hi sweetie, happy birthday! Now let's get you on those scales to see if I should dump you. Posted by Lucy Aria Rose. Am I wrong for telling my husband if he wants someone to stay at home with our baby, he can do it? This post comes with an update as well. For context, I'm currently 29 weeks pregnant. My husband is 29 male and I'm a 30-year-old female. We met in college and have been together for 8 years, married for 2. Our relationship has always been solid and progressive. My husband has never been much of a traditionalist, despite growing up in a very stereotypical family. He had 2 siblings and a stay-at-home mum, and his dad worked. Up until recently, we agreed on nearly everything, save for the small things, in our marriage. However, 2 days ago, we were talking about baby stuff, and my husband started mentioning that he thought maybe one of us should stay at home with the baby for a while, and not go back to work after our maternity/paternity leave is over. We both work in tech and make good money, and have great benefits. I get 20 weeks of leave after the baby's born, and he gets 12. We were trying to decide if we should stagger our leave, so that someone could be home with the baby until 6 months, the age where most places near us will start daycare. My husband said he read somewhere that it's better for the baby to have a parent at home for the first year. So I asked him, thinking nothing of it, if that's really something he'd consider, since he might have to quit his job. He asked why he would have to quit, since I should obviously be the one to stay at home with the baby. I asked him if he was serious, and he said yes, the mum should be the one to stay at home. I said, how are we going to make that work on just his income? For context, I make about 3 times what my husband does. It's never been an issue, and it never mattered to me. I just finished my masters before he did, we both have them, and went into a more specialised field. We both make good money, but it's my job primarily that pays for the lifestyle we have. So I asked him, what are we going to do for a year on a quarter of the income with a new baby? He got a little upset and said I shouldn't even bring that up, and that he makes good enough money to provide for us and I shouldn't question him. I got mad and said it wasn't realistic. it was silly for the person who made more money to quit their job, especially since he's the one who thinks someone should be home with the baby longer. I was fine with sending the baby to daycare, starting at 6 months. The fight blew up from there, me saying he's being sexist and not considering my feelings at all. I refused to back down and he ended up taking off, after I said he should be the stay-at-home parent if he wants one so bad. And him saying he didn't deserve to be emasculated just for suggesting that I stay at home like a good mum. I talked to some of my family and his family about it, and the answers were kind of split. So, am I wrong for bringing up the pay disparity, and for telling him that unless he's the one to stay at home, the baby's going to daycare? So, this might be a bit of an unpopular opinion, but I think maybe he baby-trapped you. And I mean baby-trap in the sense that he pretended to be progressive and treat you with respect, until you're 29 weeks pregnant and locked in. Now he's testing your boundaries, trying to see what he can get away with, trying to make you financially dependent on him. I'm glad you had such a strong response and didn't cave, but you really should consider this a red flag. Update. I was reading through a ton of comments last night and got really nervous, wondering maybe I was wrong about my husband being progressive. A lot of people were asking why we didn't talk about this before we got pregnant, and the thing is, we did. We had agreed on daycare. For people suggesting a nanny, I've been looking into it, but they're really difficult to find sometimes. Because we both want to keep our jobs that we love. My husband has been acting weird and quiet since we fought. But this morning, I finally sat him down and was basically like, what's going on? This doesn't seem like you. Some of the comments here got me thinking about what his family might be pressuring him to do. So I asked him about that, and a ton of stuff came out. He said he brought up the staggered leave to some people in his family a couple weeks ago. I wasn't there. And a few of them thought that someone should stay home longer. And his brother laughed and made some jokes about my husband being a housewife. His brother, 35 and divorced, considers himself to be a man's man and has a lot of sexist views. So he's made jokes before about me being the breadwinner. My husband snapped because some of his co-workers and his older brother have laid into him about the fact that I make more money and have a better job title, calling him a trophy husband and other dumb stuff like that. It made my husband insecure, so he lashed out at me, and that's why we fought. He's admitted that he felt really bad about it, which is why he's been kind of avoiding me. We've now agreed to look into a counsellor, and more into a nanny service. He's admitted he doesn't actually mind the idea of taking a few months off to stay at home. He's just really worried about his brother and friends' jokes. So, did he apologise for the sexist things he said to you, and for giving you the silent treatment? Or did he just realise you weren't caving, and jumped on the excuse you handed to him that it was all his brother? He was the one taking it out on you. He was the one giving you the silent treatment until you forced the issue. Does that really sound like someone who fucked up in the moment and said something they don't really mean? Posted by Early Elevator 2311. Was I wrong for exposing my friend's plastic surgery in front of her husband? So I have a friend who, when we were in college, got some work done. It was known to everyone, and she never had a problem sharing with people and giving them tips on where to go, the aftermath, and everything. We're now 30, and the whole friend group knows, and whenever she meets new people, she tells them, or so she tells me. Yesterday, she invited me to her and her husband's, and we're playing some old videotapes and pictures of our memories. We were reminiscing about the past and everything until a photo of her pre-surgery appeared. Her husband was like, "Oh, she looks so different." So I was like, "Oh, it must have been pre-surgery." And he was like, "What surgery?" I looked at him, then at her. She tried to deflect the situation, but the setting was awkward for the rest of the night. Apparently she'd dated him and married him, but she'd lied about getting work done, and he believed her. After I left, he demanded answers, which forced her to tell the truth. She called me today saying I'm a jerk for exposing her, but I was like, how could I have known that you lied to him when you're always upfront about it? Like, if she doesn't mention it herself, she expects me to mention it on her behalf to other people we meet. Except her husband, apparently. I also told her she invited me to view our old photos. Why didn't she just give me a heads up about it? She knew old pre-surgery photos would appear. She hung up on me, saying she doesn't want to know me anymore, and that I'm a terrible secret keeper. I mean, the cat's out of the bag with the photo showing up with the husband being right there. What'd she think was gonna happen? He'd be like, "Oh sure, your face just naturally mutated on its own." God, OP, how could you give the secret away? Our next story comes from Grocery Shop Post. Am I the asshole for only letting my middle kid do the grocery shopping? My husband and I have 3 kids, a 12-year-old female, a 9-year-old female, and an 8-year-old male. I don't want to sound like I'm favouring my middle daughter, but that kid is fucking smart. She taught herself to read at 3.5 years old. She has an insane memory, and her critical thinking skills are crazy. I have a friend that bought a lot and built 2 houses on it. She was going to live in one and sell the other. My kid told my friend that she would make more money renting it because she'd get money from it forever. And this was 2 years ago. I despise grocery shopping, and my middle daughter loves Lush bath bombs, so I've been writing up a list and sending her into the store with the list in my card. She always gets exactly what's on the list, and even stuff I forgot to put on there. One time she showed up with a bag of avocados, saying she used the last one that morning. Another time there were 4 boxes of pastaroni, because it was on sale and we ran out at home. Every time she goes shopping for me, I take her to Lush and let her pick out 1 bath bomb or bubble bar up to $10. My older and younger kids want me to do this with them too, but they're both a bit lazy and don't pay attention. I can't count the number of times I've called home, asked if we have a certain ingredient for dinner, they say we don't have it, so I stop by the store and buy it. Then I see it sitting where I said it would be at home. They say that's different, but honestly, I can't see anything good coming out of sending those 2 into the store unsupervised with my credit card. My husband thinks it's unfair to give the 9-year-old privileges that the 12-year-old doesn't get. But I think it's fair because the 9-year-old can do it right, but the 12-year-old can't even tell me if we have any peanut butter at home when it's sitting in front of the pantry. Am I the arsehole for letting my 9-year-old do the shopping? Down in the comments, Frosty Musician 8631 says, "You're the arsehole. You're gonna cause problems between your kids by clearly favouring one." And Jalen Official makes a great point. The problem is, OP's not even trying to play to their strengths. So her eldest and youngest aren't the most observant. For the vast majority of children, that's a learned skill, one that parents have to teach. Maybe the eldest is a natural at mowing the lawn and watering the garden. Maybe the youngest has 0 issues scrubbing down bathrooms until they shine. Like, don't give them unfettered access to your credit cards until they've earned that trust. But you can still find alternative chores that play into their strengths to reward them too. OP should be working with them on building life skills like this anyway. So if she's going to reward one child for behaving as taught, she needs to either A. actually teach her other kids, or B. reward them for displaying other skills she's taught them in a similar manner that helps the household. Remember, I post new content every day, so subscribe for more juicy tea.